Hi guys, welcome to the unboxing and comparisons video for the all-new ImmersionRC XuGong V2 Pro 10-inch foldable quad carbon edition, as they are calling it. As you can see, I have the XuGong frame and I also have the matching XuGong V2 Pro brushless gimbal, of which I will talk about more in a moment, and we'll do an unboxing and see what's in both bits of kit. First and foremost then, let's just talk about the XuGong, where it's come from and how it's been developed into this V2 version. The V1 version came out probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit before that. I certainly received my first one in January, I think it was, if not late December, built it the same month, and it had only really been probably for about a month before that actually out in the real world. That is it here. So this is just the frame. I basically rebuilt the frame because I haven't been using it too much. So this is the original V1 version. As you can see, it is a fiberglass shell on the bottom, cage if you will. You've then got a power distribution board. It's all held on with these little rubber grommets, so there's kind of a stabilization, an anti-vibration stabilization platform there. It all holds it on nice and firmly, and then you've got the main reason that a lot of people like this, a fold out design, which then once it's folded out gives you basically a similar kind of size motor to motor as a TBS Discovery in a kind of a dead cat format. However, of course, you can, when you're done flying, fold it all in, and it gives you the ability of sticking it into something like a backpack, like so. So that was the original one. Now, the original V1 had a GoPro mount on the front of it. So you had this, basically this cage here, you'd stick your GoPro in it, and it only worked off a servo, and it would basically just tilt. You had the ability to tilt it, but you had no real stabilization, nothing like that. Some of the major problems that people had with the original XuGong were in building it to begin with. It was a very constricted amount of space. The idea was on the original frame that you had to basically cram in the flight control system in this space, literally just there. So all your flight control, all your power distribution, everything had to go into this space here, and then you had the back bit here was for a 4000 4S battery. That caused a lot of people a lot of problems. It was designed around the Naza, and to be honest, it was a bit of a struggle to get even just a Naza in there. People with APMs and other flight controllers, they all struggled a little bit. Most people managed to find a solution to it, but unfortunately, I think rightly or wrongly, Immersion got quite a bit of grief for all of that. The other problem that Immersion had with this is that they had developed a very, very nice design based around FPV flying. All they were really trying to achieve was a nice lightweight portable FPV system, not necessarily a full-blown heavy lift video stabilized platform like a 450 would be with a ZenMoose gimbal on it. People like myself, we took this concept, we opened it up, we maybe used it in raw form for about 30 seconds, and then we started loading it up with extra equipment, and basically the more equipment we put on it, the worse the flying the characteristics became, the harder the wiring was, and basically we just pretty much ruined what was otherwise actually quite a good concept for what it was. Flight times went down. It didn't give you more than about 10 to 15 minutes, and if you were carrying anything more than the stock equipment. However, if you had the stock equipment and you were running a zippy compact battery, you'd get 20, maybe even 25 minutes out of it in a nice sort of stable manner. So that was the original one. Anyway, this has been about a year in the making, and hopefully it's addressed a number of the problems that came with the original one. However, it's also got much more functionality than the original frame had. It's by far and away different from the fiberglass, just a bit of fiberglass, and the aluminium extrusions. So with that, let's take a look at it. I'll move the gimbal out of the way for the moment, and like I say, we will come back to that. And let's open up the box. Okay, so here we are. So first and foremost, laid on top is the all new 10-inch version of the fold out frame. Very similar to the original in its design. I believe, in fact, if I actually get the other one in there, you'll find that it's almost identical in every way. There's a slight thinness to some of the sides, I think, compared to it, but other than that, the frame itself is pretty much identical. The locking mechanism that worked very well stays the same. So basically, if I want to unlock it, if I wanted to move this now, nothing's happening. push this lever down. As you can see, a little pin comes up, and that allows me to lock it. It's only a piece of plastic, and some people were a little bit worried about that. However, it keeps it very firmly, and most importantly, it's a fail-safe. So in other words, it's a failure point. If you go careering into the ground, boom, it's going to snap a small piece of plastic. It's not going to bend the frames completely. If it's just a light shunt, it's just going to be this piece of plastic. I can say right now, however, that this frame works very well in a reasonable shunt, as I will play the footage right now. And you can see it takes quite a beating. I ended up with some fairly major damage to the frame. It was quite bowed. It did take me quite a while to actually straighten it out. I had to use a vise and bend it and move it. However, the point is, from that height, it took a beating, and it still is now a flyable frame with no problem. So just you know, just to mention that basically. Anyway, that is the all new frame in black and red. Kind of the reverse to the old one, so let's just move that out of the way now. I'll just fold that back in. I should mention at this point there will be a full review of this once I've done it, and I will probably do at least a build time lapse, if not a complete build video, very soon. Okay, let's look at the other things that we've got. Let's start on the bags. So we have motor mount hardware. So these are the little screws designed for mounting your motors. Nice to see those included, as they weren't actually included on the V1, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong with that. We've got the usual ImmersionRC stickers and a little like us on Facebook. We have got cables. Now, the cables I will go into in a moment. However, these are designed to mate up to the gimbal, and also the special piece of kit that you will see any moment now. We have got the screws. These are the frame hardware screws. The little bits of frame hardware, the way it works, don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well. I haven't used them all on this, but basically inside here these are some special little kind of nut encapsulation devices, these bits of plastic here, and then you put a screw through it and it basically holds it. Keeps the weight really down, and actually it does work quite well. A little bit fiddly, but I mean, let's face it, there's nothing in this world when you're dealing with some of this stuff that isn't fiddly, and actually once you've done it a couple of times over, it's absolutely fine. What is nice is they're all anodized red, which I quite like. Okay, and then we've got extra. Now that means we've got some spares, which is good. So we've got a pack of spares. That means we've got some spares for the locking mechanisms, and we've got some spare anti-vibration dampeners, and by the looks of it we've got some spare feet as well, and some springs, which is good. So it's always nice to have a pack of spares. You can buy them separately, and because it's ImmersionRC, the other good thing about this, of course, unlike something like a Hobby King, is that a lot of people are stocking these. So a lot of people, distributors for ImmersionRC, will be able to get hold of spare parts if you buy one of these. Okay, let's move on to the next bag. So then we've now got the upper assembly mounting and feet. So we've got the feet that go on, so very similar to the feet here. Little rubber feet that go in the bottom of it, and then we've got the anti-vibration dampeners. Now the other interesting thing that appears to be in here, and I will get a few of these out of the bag, is there are some DJI-esque retaining clips. Now I believe this is because a few people were a little bit worried, hang on, you know, what happens if all of these rubber bits come out, then basically your frame falls away from the top. Now this actually comes with a couple of retaining clips to prevent that happening. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't a problem. It really wasn't, and again, it was a fail-safe point. However, it's nice to see that there's a little bit of peace of mind from a clip or two that's available to us. Okay, final bag, and this is a really nice one to see as well. This actually comes with a full set of pre-made 3.5mm motor extension cables. One of the main problems when you're building this is once you've got your frame all the way out here, you've got a motor here. Obviously that's going to come with bullets already on it, probably. You're then going to mount your ESC about here. However, what you've got to consider is that your motor wires need to get to that ESC, and the front of that ESC is probably going to be about here. And a lot of them just need a little bridged gap here. I spent a lot of time making some of these. myself, and you know, it's not difficult to do. If you've done a bit of soldering, it's no problem at all. However, it's really nice to see that you get a full set of these in there, so hopefully they're nicely soldered and won't give any failure points. Obviously, if you don't like using those, and a lot of people don't like the added weight, they're, you know, reasonable weight to that, then you can have the option, of course, of just soldering directly to it. Personally, I'm one of these people who always likes to reuse their stuff because I get bored so quickly with one frame. I'll move on to the next one. It's really nice to have the option of being able to have, say, an E300 set that I can just move from one frame to another, and I don't have to worry about desoldering, cutting wires, heat shrink, blah 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 blah. Okay, right, next we will pull this bag out and I'll talk about what's in that bag in a moment, and let's take a look at the frame itself. Now, main difference, first and foremost, you can see that is carbon fibre. Very nice, lightweight, I think it's 3K carbon fibre, which means it's going to be plenty strong and plenty light. So we've got the two halves of the frame, top and the bottom sections. Then we've got the little spaces between them, and we've got the side walls, and we've got the front wall there. And again, I'm not going to go into detail too much on that. I won't dry make it here. I'm just going to lay it down so we can just take a look at them. However, all I can say is that as per the last one, they are very well made, very nice quality, and I'm sure the fitment between the two is going to be pretty good as it was before. And we also get an ImmersionRC strap. So what do we have in front of us here? Well, we have the power distribution board, but this is nothing like the original power distribution board that came with the XuGong. What ImmersionRC have done is they've integrated into the power distribution board a full PCB circuit which has a load of the ImmersionRC kit actually built into it. Similar in a way to what happened with TBS when they created the core on the TBS Discovery. You have inside this EzUHF, or at least a version of it, which means that you've got all of your OSD features. You're going to be able to see how far away you are, you're going to be able to see your battery life, how much flight time you've got left, all of the essentials are included on that. You've also got a camera switch, which means that not only are you going to be able to see the output from your GoPro camera in the gimbal if you're using it, but you'll also be able to flip between that and the flight camera, so something like a Fatshark 620 TVL camera, and you'll be able to flip between the two of them. Not only that, it's actually got failover on that, so if one of the cameras actually fails, it will automatically switch to the camera that is working, which is a nice feature. You'll also be able to power all of those cameras, all of the gimbal, everything like that is going to be powered through this board. So it's literally going to be a case of clicking into the connector points here. So for example, that powers on your gimbal, that will actually power up your GoPro, this will power up and control the input and output from your Fatshark camera. You've then got a whole bunch of other connectors on here. If you're using EzUHF, for example, then you will actually be able to use the telemetry features that are embedded into the XuGong, and that's going to send it through EzUHF, and you're then going to be able to pick it up on things like Easy Antenna Tracker. So you'll actually be able to use this without having to add all of the additional features like iTelemetry, for example. You'll be able to use that if you actually take the output from the telemetry that you're getting through here and you put it through EzUHF and Easy Antenna Tracker. You'll be able to actually get the output from that. So a whole host of features. Again, I'm going to get clarification on exactly what parts of these features are open to you, what will actually be done. One of the immediate questions I've got is how the GPS works, whether it's taking it from the flight controller or whether or not it's actually got a GPS chip. As far as I can see, there's no GPS built into this. So for it to get GPS information would normally require GPS. So whether it's getting that from the Naza or whether it's getting it from your flight controller, I can see here there's a GPS input. So a few questions need to be asked before I can actually give full details on it, and they are the questions that I would endeavour to get answered as quick as possible. However, anyway, that's what comes with it. So as per the original one, so basically taking a look at the old frame, that's the old power distribution board. This is now going to replace where that was. It's still going to hold it in place, it's still got the vibration dampening as per the original, however it's got all of this additional functionality. Okay, so let's take a look at the gimbal. Now the first thing that is worthy of mentioning is that if you flip it up on this side of the packaging, you can see, plain as day, manufactured by Fairtech for ImmersionRC. no bad thing. Fairtech know what they're doing when it comes to actually making gimbals, and anyone who's a subscriber to my channel will know full well that I'm pretty clued up on Fairtech gimbals as they come. I've owned, well, I own two G3 gimbals. I own the G3 Ultra aircraft version, and I own the G3 Ultra handheld as well as the G4 handheld. So it's safe to say I've got a fairly decent relationship with Fairtech, and I know what their products are like and what you can expect, and it's no bad thing that this thing comes with the G3. So what do we get in the box? Well, interestingly, you get the DJI Phantom mounts for the Fairtech G3 gimbal. This not only gives you an ability of actually plugging in a USB device to it, which you may need to do for firmware updates, but also it's potentially useful if you wanted to fly on a DJI Phantom. You've also got mounting points here which will allow you to mount these onto rails as well. So if you've got a Phantom, or you've got something like an F450, you'll be able to use this gimbal as well. It's not just going to be a case of having to use it on the XuGong. And in the box we have got rubber dampeners, which will be used with that mounting bracket, probably not going to be used for the XuGong. And we have, sure enough, a branded ImmersionRC Fairtech G3 2-axis gimbal. So basically this little plug here will go into your PCB on your main power board, and then that's going to actually be able to operate all of the various functionality. So the tilt should be operating from your radio if you want that to happen. Hopefully that's going to be the case. Again, that's going to be proved when I do the build and I do the review. However, that's the basics of it. You also get a little bracket that's for use with the mount, I believe. I don't think we're going to need that on the XuGong. Again, we'll have to wait for the build on that. We then have the power supply. Again, I don't think that's actually going to be necessary for the XuGong as far as I can think. No, it won't. That's only for the actual bracket. And in this second box here, almost certainly we will have, yep, we have the rail mounts. So again, if you were going to use this off the XuGong, you'd be able to use it with the rail mounts. You've got your retaining ring, and you've got the standard Fairtech TTL USB. I must have about 100 of these now, but anyway, yeah, standard process, which means that we're going to be able to update the firmware on the gimbal, which is good because there are some improvements on the later firmware. You then get your TTL cable, so that plugs to the USB, and then we have what appears to be the screws for mounting it all. And what's nice to see is that the thumb screws are included. In fact, by the looks of it, you get 3 thumb screws, which is nice, so you get a spare as well, which is always handy for actually mounting the GoPro to it. So that is the unboxing all done. So what's next? Well, next is the build. I'm probably going to do a build video. If I don't do a full build video, I will certainly do a time lapse of the build. There's nothing that's going to be too surprising from the point of view of the build. It looks fairly straightforward and fairly similar to the version 1 build. Obviously the main functionality differences are in that PCB and the power circuit and everything that comes with it. So that's what I'm going to concentrate most on. However, a lot of people who had the original XuGong are going to want to know how the frame works, how big the frame is compared to the old frame, whether or not it's as easy or as difficult to put the Naza in there and things like that. So as part of the build, I will at least try and answer those questions, and certainly as part of the review all of those questions are going to be answered as well. So stay tuned. The review is going to take a little bit longer. Hopefully the build is going to be done over the next few days, and I'll get it all up online. So if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned and we will go from there.